Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My dear friends, students of the third year, Cairo Higher Institute's English Division, it's my pleasure to welcome you to another drama lecture. Today, inshallah, we are going to discuss some selected aspects of a new Shakespearean play. Today, we are going to have Julius Caesar. You had an introduction to Julius Caesar. We started reading some of the extracts written by William Shakespeare, and today we are going to discuss Julius Caesar as a history play. Julius Caesar as a history drama. So as to start discussing Julius Caesar as a history play, we need first to understand what is the meaning of a history play. What is the definition of a history play? What are the common characteristics or qualities of the history play? So, simply speaking, a history play is a dramatic work that is usually based on historical narrative. So, it's a dramatic composition, it's a dramatic text, it's a work of literature written by a dramatist, and at the same time, it is based on some historical narrations, some historical storytellings. When we talk about a history play, we must raise the following question. Does the dramatist stick to history? Question mark. In other words, does the dramatist keep every historical detail he finds in history books? Question mark. To answer this question, we need to comprehend that we may have a historical setting, we may have historical characters, we may have historical events, but we do not expect the dramatist's necessity of following historical accuracy. What does it mean? It means that the dramatist portrays his characters, draws his characters in relationship to what he perceived through history books. But of course, because he is imagining, he is creating his fictional world, he must add his perspective, his viewpoint of character portrayal, his viewpoint of the setting, his viewpoint of the ongoing actions in his fictional work. And that's why the main incidents of the play, of the history play, can be either partially or entirely drawn from history. Sometimes we have a dramatist who follows history as it is. At other moments, we may have another dramatist who takes some aspects of his story. These aspects are taken from the history books and history records, but he adds his own perspectives. He builds up what he feels, what he thinks is necessary to serve his own purpose. During the Renaissance age, because we are talking about a Shakespearean drama, so we must go back to the Renaissance age. We had many plays which were centered on the lives of historical kings, queens, and the nobles. William Shakespeare himself wrote a number of history plays rather than Julius Caesar. He wrote King Richard II, King Richard III, he wrote King Henry the IV, King Henry V, King Henry the VI, and so on. So, till now, we had just an idea about a history play. Now, let's focus on Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar, as a fictional drama built up by Shakespeare, is based on a historical source. In other words, there is a historical book which William Shakespeare read, and he took from this book a number of details he inserted in his dramatic work. It is believed that Shakespeare derived his historical material for writing Julius Caesar from Sir Thomas North's translation of the Greek historian Plutarch's The Lives of the Noble Grecians and Romans. So we had Plutarch who wrote this work, The Lives of the Noble Grecians and Romans. But it was written in Greek, and Shakespeare didn't know Greek. So he had to conduct an English translation of the Greek work. And that's why he read the translation by Sir Thomas North. What about this work and its nature? It's a series of biographies of famous Greek and Roman persons. We had 48 biographies presented in pairs. We have a comparison between a Greek person and a Roman one, a Greek leader and a Roman one, a Greek king and a Roman one, and so on. Though William Shakespeare conducted this historical source, he didn't stick to history. He didn't follow the details found in the English translation of the Greek work. Again, he adds what serves his purposes. He adds what he creates according to the sense of his age. He deviates. He steps away from Plutarch's details. He changed sometimes. He modified other times the historical material. Why? To serve his own purpose. To give you just an example, when the play opens, we have the celebration of Julius Caesar because he defeated the sons of his rival, Pompey. At the same time, it was a celebration of a famous Roman feast. According to the history books, William Shakespeare broke what was found in history books. Why? Because the return of Julius Caesar came about 6 months later than the feast. So, in this case, I have an example which shows that William Shakespeare didn't stick to history. He didn't follow history exactly. When we talk about the fictional time, place, and general atmosphere, the historical setting and the fictional setting, in both cases, we have a number of actions which took place between 44 BC and 42 BC. So, in this case, we have similarities between the original setting, the historical setting, the setting found in history books, and the fictional setting William Shakespeare dramatizes. Shakespeare dramatizes many events which had actually taken place in ancient Rome. So this is the place and the time we have between 44 BC and 42 BC. When we talk about the fictional celebration of the victorious Caesar is due to his defeat of the sons of his military rival, Pompey. So, the defeat is recorded in history books and is dramatized by William Shakespeare at the early beginning of the play. Okay, we have difference or dissimilarity in terms of dates, but when we talk about the main action, yes, it is the same. At the same time, we have the growing popularity, the general atmosphere, the growing popularity, the increasing popularity of Caesar among the masses, among the mob, which paved the way for his attaining authority. If you remember that at the early beginning of the play, we came to know that the masses shouted and they offered Caesar the throne three times. This reflects his popularity. And during the historical Caesar's lifetime, he was also popular. Later on, we will have the conspiracy against him. But undoubtedly, we have a sense of recognizing how he was popular. His popularity doesn't mean that he will not be opposed. When we talk about a leader, a political leader, this leader must have his friends, his supporters, his defenders, and at the same time, there are other persons who do not support him, or at least they have different perspectives regarding his attaining authority. Sometimes they are afraid that this person may turn to a dictator, or they are afraid that the masses will be harmed. So we have again this hint regarding an opposition of the tribunes to Caesar, which shows that his ambition is not praised. His ambition is praised by his friends and supporters, but it is not praised by his opponents. If you have a look at the fictional world of Julius Caesar, you are going to have a number of historical characters. Characters which are drawn according to what was found in history books, what was found on historical records. Of course, there must be a kind of difference between the historical character and the fictional character. But we say that Julius Caesar was a historical character. Marcus Brutus was a historical character. Cassius was a historical character. And in William Shakespeare's drama, Julius Caesar, we meet the three characters. So, the character can be portrayed in a way that is different from the historical one. But this doesn't mean that the character is not drawn from history. And that's why you can say that Shakespeare's portrayal of characters is based on the lives of real historical figures, though it deviates in its accuracy of depiction. So I have the historical Caesar and I have the fictional Caesar. They are not typically the same, but both are historical characters. So there is similarity that the fictional character is called Julius Caesar. He is called after the historical character's name, but there is no accuracy of depiction. There are certain qualities, there are certain characteristics which Shakespeare didn't follow the historical ones while portraying his characters. Caesar, in both cases, is a historical Roman military leader and conqueror. He conquered the world, the known world at that time. Marcus Brutus and Cassius are the key players who managed to conspire against Caesar. So when we talk about the main action of the play, the main event of the play, which is a conspiracy against Caesar, it is based on a historical conspiracy. When we talk about those who supported Caesar, either during his lifetime or after his death, undoubtedly we may talk about Mark Antony. At the same time, there are other defenders who appeared after his death, like Octavius Caesar. So when we call Octavius Caesar Marcus Antonius or Mark Antony, in addition to Lepidus, as the triumvirs after Caesar's assassination, this was real. After Caesar's death, we had three leaders, three of his friends, who managed to form a kind of authority shared among the three of them. And this is the term we are using. When we talk about the plot, it's very simple to remind ourselves that a plot is the arrangement of events, is the arrangement of the dramatic incidents. So the development of the plot is based on a number of historical events. The whole play, from the beginning to the end, dramatizes the conflict. And please be careful of this term, conflict, because we agreed that conflict is the essence of drama, and drama is the essence of life. So if we don't have a conflict, there is no drama. And consequently, there is no life. So conflict appears as one between Caesar's ambitious imperialism, his spirit of conquering the world, and the conspirators' republicanism. And if you remember that Marcus Brutus justified the murder for himself before anyone else. For him, he didn't kill or he didn't participate in assassinating Caesar because Caesar was not good to the masses, not because Caesar was ambitious, but he agreed to join the conspiracy for the sake of Rome. For him, Caesar's ambition was believed to harm or cause any kind of disorder to the welfare of Rome. So be careful of this. He did every action for the sake of Rome. So this is the kind of conflict we have. At the same time, by the end of the play, we have the victory of the Republicans. We have the Republicans who supported Caesar. Okay? But the masses had a problem, that they are not fit yet for democracy. And if you remember that they were manipulated once by Brutus and once by Mark Antony, while each was trying to convince the masses to take his side. The two famous orations, the two funeral speeches spoken by Brutus first and then Antony. Brutus was justifying the murder. Antony managed to, let me say, to push, to insert, to inject some kind of enthusiasm within the vessels of the Romans so as to persuade them that Caesar was no dangerous. So this was an example. Another example we have is the role of Cassius as an initiator, the person who started, the person who began the conspiracy against Caesar. Brutus wasn't the initiator. He was Cassius who initiated the conspiracy. And Cassius managed to convince Brutus to join the conspiracy. The assassination, the murder of Julius Caesar was central in the history of ancient Rome. And that's why this is the main action, the main event in Julius Caesar, the fictional play written by William Shakespeare. So, the main action is based on a historical action. When we talk about the funeral speeches, of course, we had two orations. Both of them tried to manipulate the masses or the mob. Both of them tried to serve the purposes of the speakers, the two speakers, whether Brutus or Antony. Brutus tried to justify the murder. Brutus was a politician who intended to justify the murder of a military leader and to contain the anger of this assassinated leader's supporters. He doesn't want those who loved Caesar to rise against the new government or the new system, the new political system. The arrival of Octavius in Rome after Caesar's assassination and his joining Mark Antony and Lepidus to form a triangle who is going to take revenge. So they are the key players of the tragedy of revenge. And this will lead to a kind of civil war between the supporters of Caesar and the conspirators. And this civil war will end in the death of Brutus and Cassius near Philippi. And this end will bring order again to Rome. Because if you remember, we said that the first part of the play can be regarded as a tragedy of usurpation, and the second part is a tragedy of revenge. So when the main conspirators are dead, then revenge is achieved, revenge is fulfilled. So this state of disorder which started or which coincided with the conspiracy came to an end by the death of Brutus and Cassius. And that's why by their death the tragedy of revenge comes to an end. I thank you for today. I hope you have understood what is given. I try to simplify it as possible, but later on we are going to have the quoted extracts which are going to explain each aspect of the points we raised today. For the time being, I thank you so much and see you next lecture. Goodbye.